Welcome to our executive interview series where we sit down with industry leaders to discuss their innovative companies and the impact they are making in their field. Today, we are kicking off the new year 2023 with a very exciting guest, Robert Proulx, the President and CEO of Imagion Biosystems. With over 25 years of experience in the computer, life science, and medical diagnostics industries, Robert has led the company through recent restructuring and recapitalization efforts. This Australian medical device company, which is listed on the ASX under IBX, is pioneering technology that could change the way we detect and diagnose cancer. Well, Robert, thank you for joining us today for this interview.
Yeah, it's nice to be here. Thanks for the invitation.
Brilliant. Now, before we dive into the details, can you give our audience a sneak peek of what Imagion Biosystems is actually working on and how it's poised to revolutionize the field of cancer?
Yeah, so we consider ourselves a clinical stage company. So we have product that's in clinical investigation at this time. And our primary focus is on changing the way we can use non-invasive imaging techniques to be able to actually diagnose cancer. So today, the problem that we have is that we have multiple ways to image the body. For example, MRI, CT, ultrasound, but none of them can tell you if what they see is in fact cancer. They can see a suspicious lesion, they can see something that doesn't look quite right, but they can't tell you in fact if it's cancer. And that's what we're trying to change. So we're trying to move imaging from being identification of a suspicious spot to actual molecular signature that's associated with the presence of cancer.
That's brilliant. Well, what actually inspired the team at Imagion Biosystems to tackle this problem of non-invasive cancer detection? Can you share us the pain points that you saw in the industry?
Yeah, so this is one of those classic examples. The company was originally started by a very well-known physicist who's unfortunately his second wife came down with breast cancer. And he was thinking, I've got to do something about this, and he started to think about how he could improve on use of magnetic imaging and our ability to tag cancers by detecting particles that could become attached to the cancer. So we've now got a very talented group of people that cross from physics, chemistry, and biology to tackle the problem of how do we take a physical measurement of the magnetic property of a particle and make it work with human biology in such a way that we get that cancer-specific answer. So we've got a group of people that go everywhere, like I said, across physics, medical physics, and chemistry to figure out how we can attach targeting ligands to our particles, to understanding how they work in the biology, and then, of course, affecting getting a clinical study underway and really being able to get the clinical results that you want. I will say most everybody in the company it has a personal story, right? 1 in 3 people are affected in some way, shape, or form by cancer. So in addition to the fact that, we have very talented scientists, there's also, for many people, a personal mission here associated with our ability to improve the way we detect cancer.
Amazing. Well, I have to say you are addressing a very big concern that, in the clinical community we face. And my next question is actually really surrounding that. So what has been the reaction of the clinical community about, the MagSense technology? Can you share any feedback that you've received from them about, from medical professionals who have seen the potential of your technology?
Yeah, so as we moved through our early stage research and began moving towards getting into the clinic, of course, we started to engage with clinicians like breast surgeons and radiologists with the idea that we were now going to try to bring something into clinical investigation that could change the way we diagnose cancer. And I can say, 100% of the time, when we talk to those clinicians about the possibility of being able to not just image a spot, but be able to say that image actually represents cancer cells. And you could potentially now avoid having to do a biopsy on a patient because we've in fact been able to diagnose it non-invasively. They're 100% on board, right? We still have a lot of work to do to go demonstrate that in fact we can get that answer reproducibly every time for every patient. But universally, the clinical practitioners are very keen on this idea that we could change the way we look at cancer. And I mean that both in a literal and a figurative sense, right? Change the way we look at cancer because, in fact, we're looking at it now, showing it non-invasively as a molecular signature, but also changing the way that we no longer necessarily have to biopsy patients to confirm if you have cancer.
Yeah, absolutely. It is definitely the next step because if you don't have to go towards a traditional method of doing a biopsy, then it's definitely taking the technology to the next level. Now, it would be great for us, for our audience, Robert, if you could also share any recent achievements with Imagion Biosystems that investors should be aware of, any upcoming milestones as well that we should be keeping an eye on.
Yeah, so we just did an announcement in the beginning of September where we've published our first clinical results from our HER2 breast cancer study. This was pretty momentous for us. It's a big milestone that not only are we in clinical phase, but we're now being able to start to report those results. They're very promising results that we're able to demonstrate that our product continues to be safe when administered to the patient. So we're not seeing any safety issues with our imaging agent. And secondly, that we're now being able to see clear data that shows we can differentiate patients who have tumor involvement in their lymph nodes versus patients who don't. So that the goal here is to be able to identify if a patient has breast cancer, has it also metastasized to the lymph nodes? And can we do that non-invasively? So we just started to report those early clinical results back in December. I think our shareholders and the markets ought to look for the next milestones, us trying to bring that study to a conclusion, then using those data to determine what's our next phase of clinical testing that's really going to move this towards commercialization.
That's brilliant. Now, you touched upon this about your team. So it would be great for us to know that, the talented team that you have behind Imagion Biosystems. Can you share with us like their skills and their experience that, helps contribute to the success of the company?
Yeah, so again, we start with the internal core team of people that range across physics and biology and chemistry with the idea of how do we construct a targeted particle that's going to go be able to be administered to a patient safely and show us the biology that we're looking for. But we have a whole host of outside support. So we have 4 sites in Australia that are helping us with the clinical study, and each of these sites has radiologists, pathologists, surgeons that are involved in helping us implement the study. We've got a panel of outside reviewers that we're working with, and we've got a whole team of people related to the regulatory and clinical aspects of this. So we've been very conscious of trying to do this, keeping our head count as low as possible until we know that we have something that really needs to be brought forward commercially, and using experts on the outside to help us get there. And I think that, we're right now starting to see those clinical data come through and our ability to now potentially go ultimately and attract a strategic partner that's going to want to help us commercialize this.
That's brilliant. Now, as a parting question, Robert, you've touched upon this, like your focus for the coming year, but anything else that you would like to add to your statement that, we should be looking out for with the growth of Imagion Biosystems in 2023?
Yeah, thank you for asking that, because I think there is a little bit more than that. Obviously, we really want to continue to make the progress on this first product for HER2 breast cancer. But in September, we reported some early results on prostate cancer. And part of that is that now that we know that we're making progress clinically with the first product for breast cancer, we want to make sure that we have a pipeline of other imaging agents for other cancers. And so I think this year, in addition to making progress with the HER2 breast cancer product, the market should watch for us having news about a pipeline of products that now start to fill that out, because that will be really important for us to attract a strategic partner, that we don't just we're not a one-trick pony for breast cancer, but in fact, we've now translated this ability to do non-invasive molecularly specific imaging to multiple forms of cancer. So I think we should see news flow and progress this year as we build out that portfolio of imaging agents that we think will change the way we look at cancer.
That's brilliant. Well, Robert, thank you so much for coming on for this interview and sharing your insights and also the work that your team is doing in this field. It really is phenomenal, and we're so glad that we got to learn more about the technology that at Imagion Biosystems. For those who are interested in getting in touch with the team at Imagion Biosystems, please see the details on your screen or in the description. And Robert, thanks again for this interview, and I wish you all the luck with your venture.
Thanks very much. It was nice to be here.
Thank you.